Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live webinar, Behind the Scenes at Citrix, Solving Day-to-Day Networking Challenges. If you have any questions for our speakers during this presentation, please submit them through the Q&A tab in your GoToWebinar interface. Also, today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording as well as the slides will be sent to you after the webinar. Also, make sure to check out the additional resources located in the Handouts tab. Now, today's presenters. We have Kevin Poe, a lead network systems engineer who has been with Citrix for 5 years. He also has over 15 years experience working with various Citrix solution integration partners. And he is joined today by Roman Dario Lemes Gonzalez, a network architect within the IT department who is responsible for designing, implementing, and supporting the network and security solutions deployed within Citrix. We are very excited to have them both on. And now let's get started. Kevin?
Thanks, Carol. My name is Kevin, like Carol said, and I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. We are very excited to get this webinar going, and just to remind everybody, it is live, so let's get going. We do want to talk about some housekeeping items. So before we get started, I'd like to give everyone an opportunity to do an audio check. If you are having trouble with VoIP, please feel free to dial in using your country's listed number. We also want to remind you that we do have everyone on mute today. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to submit them through the Q&A system. We will review some of these questions at the end of our presentation. We'll give everyone about a minute to get situated, and we will begin shortly. Thank you. Just as a reminder that we will be raffling off a Roku Ultra, so be sure to stick around to the very end. And with all that out of the way, let's get started. So today, we have a very unique opportunity to get a peek into what's going on behind the scenes at Citrix IT. Citrix IT is a company just like yours, and being a company just like yours, the IT challenges that your organization faces, we face as well. So today, we're hoping to show you guys some of these challenges and also showcase some of these approaches that we've taken to take control of our apps. And I think a good place to start really is understanding what we're seeing in the field as it pertains to application requirements. As more applications continue to adopt web-based architectures and move to the cloud, the field has shown that enterprises across the globe, like yours, face similar challenges. That being, how do we ensure applications are scalable? While scalable, how do we, at the same time, make sure that applications are resilient? And as these applications are exposed to the user base, how do we make sure an application is secure? And all the while, execute all of that without sacrificing agility when it comes to updates and changes. So these challenges and questions we've all asked or thought of at some point. And of course, Citrix IT has asked all those questions as well. With all that being said, today we're hoping to cover, firstly, how does Citrix IT deliver our business applications? And in order to do that, just like you, we need to understand application requirements of our app owners. Then, how do we address these requirements? And finally, how do we take things to another level by addressing application management and monitoring related challenges? So I'd like to introduce Dario, our resident network architect for Citrix Global Security and Technology. Dario, thank you so very much for agreeing to do this webinar. We're all looking forward to the insider insights that you'll be sharing with us. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure being with you today. Well, a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Cuba, where I was introduced to computer networks where I was young. I've been working with networks for over 10 years in different roles around design, implementation, optimization, and support of networks and security solutions. I joined Citrix as a lead network engineer in 2016, where I worked with multiple customers on deploying and implementing Citrix network solutions and the integration with other network and security components on their environment. Last year, I moved to our Citrix IT department, where I led the integration and improvement of Citrix network technologies within our IT systems. As an architect, I work close with multiple teams such as product development, IT operations, businesses, and application owners. And within the Citrix IT, our IT department acts as customer one for our new technologies, products, and most of the new features, providing direct feedback from the field to our product team and developers about those new technologies and how to improve them and shape them in order to address our requirements, which are mostly similar to our enterprise customer requirements.
Hey, thank you, Dario. I really appreciate that. So before we dive into this, we thought it'd be fun to poll our audience to see what kind of scale that you guys are dealing with there, out there today. So Kira, if you don't mind, you want to pull up the first polling question? How many web applications are in your environment? We'll give you guys a few seconds to punch in your answer. Come on, guys, 5% voted. Let's get those votes in. There we go. Carol, I think we can safely close the poll at this time. And let's share those results. So it looks like, either very few, 1 to 10, right? Or quite a bit more, 1 to 100. So this is actually a very normal distribution, right? We tend to only think of websites, but the reality is that anything that really leverages HTTP protocol really counts, right? So SaaS apps, any kind of custom web apps, and even more so these days is API-driven applications, or even apps that have a non-web application front end, but it's actually making HTTP calls to the back end, right? Those count as web apps as well. So the number actually, after we have these discussions, tend to be far greater than we think. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you guys participating. Dario, why don't you first help us understand a little bit more about Citrix environment, explain really how Citrix IT delivers business applications.
On a high-level overview of Citrix IT environment, our IT systems workloads are distributed across all geo regions for on-prem data center perspective, but we also leverage Azure and AWS clouds. We have more than 50 offices globally, 5 of which we consider campus locations or main offices, And our infrastructure and IT systems provide services for over 8,000 internal employees, multiple partners, and Citrix customers as well. So before we start talking on how we deliver business application, I would like to just show the audience and start discussing about all the components and services that make possible an application to be properly delivered to users. When deliver an application, we usually have 2 points of view. How the application user sees the application, they just open a browser or an app and they access to the site to get the proper resource or content they need, versus how architects and engineers and even the business owner sees the application, which is a mix of end user interactions with all network services in between to access all application servers. And sometimes with multiple interactions from these application servers to other application backend components that make the entire solution work.
Hey, Dario, quick question. What are those network services that you have mentioned on that diagram?
Well, network services are usually formed by basic network services, which provide layer 1 to layer 3 connectivity, such as routers, switches, and physical connections. But the question is, what happens when an application grows and only one server can host this application? What happens when we want to deliver multiple content from multiple servers for the same application to work? Or even when we need to secure our application? All that and much more is available by using advanced network services. Besides firewalls and other security-related solutions, Citrix IT uses 2 core components when delivering advanced application network services. Citrix Application Delivery Controller, ADC, or as most of you should know it, or NetScaler, for delivering advanced application services. And Citrix Application Delivery Management, or as it was previously known, Management Analytics System, or MAS, for centralized management of all the ADCs and applications delivered by them. These 2 work together with the main objective of having a unified ADC infrastructure.
Hey, so Dario, can you expand more on the list of advanced networking services Citrix IT provides through the ADC and ADM and what role it plays?
Sure. So, well, for advanced network application services we provide with the ADC, we have load balancing for distributing client requests across multiple servers and to optimize the resource utilization. As I mentioned before, sometimes we have one application that cannot be hosted on one backend server because we have so many users using, we put a load balancer in front of it. We use content switching to distribute client requests across multiple servers based on specific content that we have on those backend servers, and we want to present to the users. For example, sometimes we have application content in some language hosted on a couple of servers and other languages hosted on another set of servers. Sometimes it's picture, sometimes it's audio, but we use content switching when we want just to deliver an application that has multiple components and we want just to host those components on different backend servers. We use authentication, authorization, and auditing, or AAA, which allow us to manage access control with the NetScaler appliance instead of managing this control separate for each solution. You must have seen this on just today on Workspace, where you just want to have a single point where all your users are authenticated. That's what we use today at Citrix IT at AAA for. We use also Citrix Gateway Services to consolidate our remote access infrastructure to provide a single sign-on across all applications, whether they are in the data center or the cloud, or we deliver them through a SaaS app. Today, we are also exploring on introducing web application firewall and bot management to all our applications to increase the security posture. We use Citrix ADM for 2 main purposes: application delivery and centralized management of ADC along with automation. On the application delivery side, ADM helps us to reduce the deployment time of application by allowing the application owners to have full control of the previously mentioned advanced network services provided by the ADC, using a self-service portal style where they have centralized management for all their applications. ADM also makes application mobility and migration simple and easy between ADCs on a given location, or even between multiple locations in a matter of minutes instead of days. It also provides a centralized monitoring and alerting of all events for application hosted on ADC, which are also customizable by the application owner. And more recently, we are working with the ADM product management team on improving the product to provide application performance visibility metrics and insight of every ADC hosted solution. This is something that is still in progress, and the deployment of this solution is like being handled out today on our on-prem data centers. On the centralized ADC management and automation, it allows us to fully deploy new ADC instances in a matter of minutes by using automated configuration jobs. This used to take us days in the past. Now we can just do this within 10 minutes. It also provides us a single point of class for all load balancer BEPs, services, service group, certificates, and others. In the past, this was tracked down using massive spreadsheets, lots of guessing, outdated documentation, which led us to long times to just locate a resource we need to troubleshoot or just modify. By using configuration audits, now we can keep track of configuration modification from our baseline config, making sure that our configuration is standard across the board. ADM provides us the abilities of applying security remediations, upgrades, or configuration changes from a single console, which allow us to keep standardized config applied to multiple ADCs. Something that used to take us weeks and multiple engineers in the past assigned to the task, now is done by a single engineer in minutes or hours, depending on the complexity of the work.
Hey, thanks, Dario. Hey, so let's talk about what our application requirements are as it pertains to Citrix IT. I'm really curious to see how closely these challenges match up to what I see in the field.
We absolutely face the same challenge you mentioned before that they are seen on the field, and many others as well. But before we start talking about those application requirements, Kevin, I would like to show you how we were able to gather them. So when I joined Citrix IT, I did a quick survey of our infrastructure hosts, and this is what I found. Some of our infrastructure hardware was at that point reaching end of life or end of support, and it was due to the renewals period. Our configuration lack on the standardization at the ADC resource level, such as vServer, services, and others, provided no scripting capabilities. We have to remember that when you have like a big infrastructure managed by multiple engineers, some have like different work styles, and they just go ahead and they just like put all the commands as they see fit. And sometimes that naming convention doesn't like agree among the different engineers. We also have massive spreadsheets that always changing configuration and application make us difficult to track application owners to advise them about maintenance window or possible impacts when we were doing changes on the ADC. With multiple ADCs across different locations, it was sometimes a challenge for our operations teams to determine where to deploy those advanced network services for an application when it was needed. Migrating an application from one ADC to another one, let's say from QA to production, it was a real challenge for us. We didn't have any self-service capability for our developers to deploy their own applications, something that they were asking a lot. Everything had to go through our network operations team, which led to just like sometimes delays on their projects and just the ability of application owners to work efficiently. We had no visibility of application level performance, which made troubleshooting of any issues very painful process. With our business goals being achieving at speed, efficiency, scale, and risk management, and all the analysis performed previously, we met with our business owners and application owners to define our requirements for advanced network services within the IT departments. Those were defined as follows. We wanted a solution that allowed us to have application agility, standardization, a solution that was secure by design, scalable, that automation-centric, it was resilient with centralized management, self-service, and that provides application visibility. So at that point, the only question that remained was, how do we address all these business requirements? Do we use the same infrastructure that we have when we try to improve it, or do we do something different?
Hey, that's awesome, Dario. Hey, we're going to take a pause here for another poll. And this time we're wondering, what's everyone's top priority when it comes to delivering these applications? So Carol, if you don't mind, let's kick up the second poll. Right, the options are scalability, focus, automation focused, centralized management, self-service, or app visibility. Now, mind you, you can select more than one answer on this. Personally, I'd be selecting all of them. And Dario, I'll probably get your feedback on this one once we get those results in.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you, Carol. So we can see centralized management is number one, right? And what scalability and automation are tied. So yeah, a lot of SDN type of priorities are coming in. And this absolutely aligns with what we're seeing out there. You know, a lot of cloud initiatives, right? Spreading things around, right? We do need tools to kind of pull this all together. Any comments, Dario?
Yeah, so absolutely. That's like the same challenges that we went ahead and we faced. So that's why we went just like to go ahead to a transformation process that I would like to go ahead and present. So let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about how we go ahead and deploy our infrastructure and our applications today. With our ADC infrastructure reaching end of life and a support at the time, and having all the constraints I mentioned to you before, we decided to build a new architecture that addresses all these requirements using Citrix ADC and ADM. We deploy a new scalable and secure ADC design, which we are still deploying today on our on-prem data centers and cloud locations. And all this to avoid having to support multiple hardware platforms. We consolidate all our on-prem appliances down to one model. We are using today ADM for application management, being this one performed by the application owners themselves, and we have ADC hardware management and operations performed by our operations team.
Hey, Dario, what does that high-level overview look like for this new architecture?
So we have two variants of like the design. One for externally available applications, which are exposed to the internet, and other one for internal applications. On the external version, we have a firewall component securing the traffic between the internet and the virtual servers hosted on the ADC, where all the traffic is inspected and secured by a specific set of firewalls. There, all the virtual IPs reside on what we call eDMC or external DMC. This is a subnet we dedicate for all virtual servers only. There is no host or any other endpoints over here. There, we have like another one dedicated subnet called IDMC or internal DMC, where we provision dedicated snaps for every application, which we call a one-to-one mapping between the external DMC IP and the internal DMC IP. You may ask, why having a dedicated snap for every application? The reason behind it resides on two main components: scalability and security. Any given snap or subnet IP, which is used to communicate to backend servers, can only open 65,536 connections. So if we share only one snap with multiple high-demanding application servers, we may run into poor starvation problems, leading to our application not to be able to scale and perform correctly. Okay, but like, we can add multiple snaps for addressing that problem, correct? The answer is yes, but what happens when a given application is compromised? If this is the case, in order to protect the best snap, your security team will highly block that traffic from the snap to the internal resources. Since this snap is going to be shared among multiple virtual servers, such change will impact more than one application. Having dedicated snaps per virtual server allows us to have a higher granularity when it comes to security posture. Now, since a specific application uses dedicated snap, blocking the traffic from that snap to the internal network will only impact the compromised application, while other applications could run impact-free. Also, this allows us to have higher security posture by filtering on the backend servers to only accept connections from that subnet IP that is specified for that application. All connections from the IDMC or internal DMC to all the data center or internal resources located on the corporate network are inspected and secured by another set of firewall rules that you see on the picture, which determine what type of traffic can get into our corporate network. All external appliances are also managed by a dedicated management network, which is also secured by a set of firewall rules for increasing security. We extended the same principle to our internal deployment, with the only difference we don't have any firewall components because this traffic is internal traffic, which we control differently by other security postures we already have deployed throughout our environment. To achieve this full multi-tenant environment within multiple workloads and to be able to host production environment, QA environment, and dev environment, we leverage Citrix SDX appliances on which we deploy dedicated HA per VP access for each of those environments. About the hardware. In the past, we used to have a non-standard appliance set, meaning we had a variety of MP access, SD access, and even hypervisor hosted VP access. As mentioned before, most of that environment was reaching end of life or about to. So, and having all that variety didn't allow us to have all standardized configuration set, which made scripting jobs a real challenge for us. We had a mixed number of appliances per data center with a total of 75 chassis. Now we have consolidated all our hardware to be SDX 26250S, which expected end of life will be announced by 2030. So we have more than 10 years of life span over there left. From the deployment, we had built our infrastructure with a standardized configuration sets by using ADM, which allows to deploy any HA per VP access in less than 10 to 15 minutes. Production ready. We were able to reduce our hardware footprint from 75 chassis down to 32, where we deploy all our VPX instances in HA mode for high availability. From the operational perspective, our infrastructure now can grow larger with fewer boxes to manage and to maintain, reducing the operational expenses on the data center by using less physical hardware to deliver higher resources. As previously discussed, ADM is the center of our ADC management and automation and orchestration. At the beginning, the question for us was, do we deploy an on-prem ADM or do we leverage the cloud offering? We tested the on-prem ADM solution for managing our previous infrastructure while we were rolling out the new one, but we detected that as our environment was growing, the maintenance and operational overhead of the ADM instance increased with it. Upon meeting with our product team, they encouraged to use ADM service hosted on Citrix Cloud for an environment of our scale and our feature roadmap. Long story short, today we leverage ADM service for managing our entire environment end-to-end. The deployment and rollout of the solution was the easiest that I've ever worked with. We met with our product team. We discussed proper sizing of our environment and our requirements, which we provide to them, and they went ahead and they just provide us an ADM subscription, which we started using on Citrix Cloud. Then we went ahead, we deployed ADM agents on all our geo regions and onboarded all our ADC instances. The whole process took us less than a month from start to end, and the results were amazing. We achieved higher stability with less management overhead. Something critical for us was being time to remediation of issues, bugs, and new features and enhancements as well, which on ADM service is available without needing us to do a manual upgrade of our ADM instance, provide us higher uptime when compared to ADM on-prem offerings. Today, we work with the ADM product team acting as customer one of new features, providing directly feedback on how to improve the product based on our field experience when working with the product. With this engagement, our ADM product team is able to address issues and improve the product even before the first version of these features are rolled out to our paid customers.
Hey, thanks, Dario. Hey, something I've noticed is a couple of things. Is that one very common problem is that, as your ADC infrastructure grows, it becomes more labor intensive to manage. these changes. As more applications are exposed to the ADC, they tend to want to leverage the power of the ADC. So this means more changes as far as change requests to the IT team. How does Citrix IT really manage that? And then also, in addition, application monitoring becomes something that application owners are demanding for troubleshooting and planning as well. So not only the application owners, but also as a ADC owner wanting to establish, what we call time to instance, pinpointing the problem quickly. And of course, last but not least, how about the environment for you as a whole, right? How do you tend to a fleet of ADCs that now can potentially be hosting, thousands of VIPs?
Yeah, so Kevin, that was a challenge for us at the beginning of this transformation journey. One of the main question was who should manage the application configuration on the ADC? During our meeting with the business owners and the product team, we identified two possible scenarios for it. Should this advanced service be delivered by the ADC and managed by the network operations team or the application owner itself? After considering that, we came to the following thought. If it was managed by the network operations team, all the ADC configuration for any applications, addition, modification, removal, will have to depend on their resources, which they have other tasks to do as well. Also, for the network operations team to be able to apply the best configuration that meets the application needs, besides having all the knowledge to configure the ADC, they also needed to have in-depth knowledge of how the application works. This is sometimes time-consuming and just complex, just go ahead and achieve. This model also increased the operational overhead, sometimes causing delays for application owners and their project timeline. In today's world, applications are dynamic, and sometimes while they are being identified and defined on QA or dev environments or even on prod, they require multiple configuration and tweaks for achieving the best user experience possible. Also, on our previous experience, sometimes a change request by an application owner didn't produce the expected outcome, leading this to further troubleshooting and engagement for our operations team. It was really a burden for them to just be dealing with all that. So, in the other hand, what we had is allowing applications owners to perform the configuration themselves. We think it should have addressed all those issues, right? So, but we didn't have if we were going with this route, we didn't have to expend any network resources for just performing all this configuration. Who knows better the application needs than the owner itself? So for us, allowing application owners to manage their own applications on the ADC was a win-win situation. But at the beginning, it brought some concern for our teams as well. How do we get proper training on ADC configuration to all the owners? We have thousands of owners over there, and having them training on a timely manner was something that was time consuming. How do we ensure that if we do so, that they are going to just keep a standard configuration? How do we limit the access for them to only modify their own applications? We don't want one team to be able to modify any other application. So we have a couple of options over there. Should we use roles-based access, maybe provision individual instance for them, or maybe using admin partitions? Also, how do we ensure that if they do so, and if they do a change even to their own application, that is not going to impact other applications that they don't manage? So after a lot of discussing and planning, we came with a solution to address all these points.
Hey, thanks, Dario. I can really see how our RBAC really helps. We're going to take our last and final poll. So before we get into this next section, we want to kind of get your temperature, so we have a better understanding of whether or not you guys currently feel well equipped to deploy high-performing, well-managed, and secure apps. So in this particular poll, right, we just wanted to know if you either strongly agree or strongly disagree, or somewhere in between. Thank you, Carol. Really appreciate that. Yeah, we can see we have a nice little hump like your standard bell curve. And we see this a lot, right? We open a lot of meetings out there in the field with this question, but then it seems like after we do our presentation, people realize that they can do so much more. So Dario, I guess the next thing I would ask you is, ADC touches layers 1 through 7, and really no one person owns all those layers. This is a very common question I get in the field. Can you show us how we handle this internally?
Sure. So as I was mentioning, the way that we just like went ahead and do it was with a hybrid solution, which is still being implemented throughout our environment. We are on this transformation process, and we are just like going ahead and implementing this on our whole network. We split responsibilities in two. Some of those responsibilities will remain on the network operations teams, and other ones are going to be for the application owners to just do themselves. Both of those, they leverage ADM as control plane. So let's see what the network team is going to be responsible for. The network team will be responsible for all the physical hardware, meaning that they will perform hardware monitoring, configuration, support, and full life cycle of all the appliances and instances that we have on those. They are going to oversee security remediation, hardware upgrades, appliance password rotations, and any other changes to the hardware or the instance itself, only the instances. We have created a catalog of application templates for application owners to use when they deploy their own applications, which totally abstract the ADC configuration commands and make sure the configuration parameters are standardized across all applications, regardless of who is the owner that is deploying them, which we expect that should cover 95% of all their required configuration that they do. We still have a 5% over there that we will address in a one-to-one basics, which we will be just slowly building those proper applications or template for those as needed. The network operations team, in cooperation with the architecture team, support these templates in case of any issues, modifications, or anything is required based on features, settings that are not available on the provided templates. Even though application templates were built around best practice by default and should be self-explanatory by themselves, our network teams provide guidance to application owners regarding what application templates should they use in case like that they require. They are responsible also for SSL certificate renewal on all production appliances, and they have like the task of defining custom SSL parameters if by any chance an application requires that and is given proper approval from our security team. They also perform the initial onboarding of application owners on ADM and provide full support for any unexpected issues with the portal, or if they have any issues related with the ADC's hardware where an application is hosted as well. So on the other side, the responsibility of the application owner will have just to have the full application lifecycle for they to use the provided templates that we already provision for them. We require application owners to configure health monitoring on ADM for their systems to alert them upon any unexpected issues with the application, or just like just anything that they may want to receive alerts with. We provide them standard templates for them to just use, and as is defined on the guidelines of our network operations team, and they will work with like any technical resources, technical support if the application owner detects a defect and needs to be remediated regarding the physical hardware. They can install also SSL certificate as needed, something that was longly asked by owners for their application, and only they have detailed statistics for application hosted on the ADC by the use of Insight. So I would like to take a couple of minutes right now to show you how application owners use ADM today within Citrix IT for deploying and maintaining their own applications. Again, this is a work in progress. This is available for any new applications from now on that they want to deploy. All the existing applications, we are going through a transformation process, which we collaborate with the application owner to just onboard those applications that were deployed in a previous infrastructure using these application templates that we have defined over there. The process is a little bit like straightforward. We go ahead and we just like work with application owners. We provide them the templates. They are in charge of like migrating their applications to the new architecture. Then we work with like the security team to validate that everything is ready under the new infrastructure. And after we have everything on the new infrastructure ready, we do a cutover. Once we do the cutover and we validate that everything is running perfectly on the new infrastructure, we go ahead and we deprecate the old infrastructure application that we have for them. So let's go ahead and let's take a quick demo on that portal. So here you could see that they go ahead, they go to ADM to deploy any new application. So they have like a variety of application templates or what we call application catalog, and they go and they select and create a configuration for one of those templates. Once they select the template that they want to use for their application, they only have to provide some parameters over there, meaning name, IP address, like what's the port that they want to use, load balancing protocol, algorithm, all that is over there for them to use. Some of these parameters, as you can see over there, they are pre-filled over there, so they don't have just to deal with them. But all of those are really customizable by them. They could go ahead and just do any customization. Basically, we have abstract the ADC GUI of like deploying a regular configuration to be done with ADM. As we could see over here, we are setting up a demo SSL app where we are going to be adding like a couple of focus over here, demo servers over there. This is just for the purpose of the demonstration. And some of these parameters are optional over here, but what we require, for example, the backend servers, if we don't have backend servers, the application cannot work. So some of those are mandatory as well. So we require them to be filling those to be able to deploy the application. All this was built with like a simplicity in mind. So if you don't know or you're not sure, you just leave the default settings and that's it. But if you require any advanced settings, trust me, you could go ahead over here and you could do anything that you need. We have basic monitoring, advanced monitoring, and everything. Once all those parameters are pre-configured, the only stuff they have to do is select the target instance. How they do it when they see a lot of ADCs. We use tags for that, making, as you can see over here, they are just filtering for tag Miami, external, environment is dev, and they could get to the details of what ADC they need to go ahead and deploy the configuration on. After that, they only just like hit the create button, and all ADC configuration commands are sent to the ADC without any knowledge by the owner of any ADC CLI commands. So we address the problem of having to train all those application owners on how do they just like get ADC configurations done. They only have to go here to the portal and within a language that everybody understands, fill in the blanks or just doing a text, they could go ahead and they could do any complex configuration that they need for their application. Once it's completed, you could see that over here they will have what we call configuration pack. The configuration pack is nothing less than all the set of parameters that they have. Let's say that right now we deploy that application and we want to modify, we forgot something or we have to add something. So we just select the application and we hit edit, and we could come over here. As you could see, all the application parameters are going to be popping out, the same ones that we configure, and we come over here and we modify any parameters that we need. Let's say that we want to modify from source IP, destination IP to source IP only. We want to go ahead and we forgot that this is an SSL web, so I'm going to put my redirect right now in place. I just click my redirect and, oh gosh, I forgot to add a backend server. Let me go ahead and let me do it right now. Again, couple of clicks away, everything is there at your fingertips. You just like put it over there, and after you go ahead and you finish all those changes, the only stuff that you have to do is, guess what? Click on the redeploy. And once you have the redeploy, all the new changes are going to be pushed to the appliance without any interaction from your side or from the application owner side. So as you can see, this process is really straightforward, and it's really easy for them to go ahead and get any configuration, complex or easy, done within a matter of just minutes over there. We could see right now what happened is like, let's say that they deploy this on dev environment and they want to go ahead and migrate to QA because they finished building the app and they just like want to just do this a little bit of QA testing on the environment, right? So they only have to select the target instance. They only have to just do update. I want to update my configuration. I want to move it to another box right now. And as we could see right now, we are going to be using tags again to move this to the data center in Miami. We want to keep this on our Miami data center. We want this to be external, obviously, because this is public application, but we want to right now migrate this from dev to QA environment. As you can see, the instances are provided over there. They go ahead and they just like click the OK button, and after they click the OK button, everything is going to be removed from the previous instance that the configuration was, and it's going to be redeployed on the new instance. So all this configuration will be done within a couple of seconds with effortless ADC config over there. Some other stuff that you may be asking, okay, this is like regarding deploying configuration. I see it's really easy. I go ahead to get a GUI, I put everything over there, I get my successful command saying that everything is there. How do I know how my application is, right? How do I know if it's up, if it's down, if I don't have access to the ADC? So easy. We go over there later on. We're going to see that we go to the network functions dashboard, and we could see all that there. So they could use the SSL dashboard for installing certificates. Remember that we talked about that. But what about renewal? They could come over here as well, and they could just like click the certificate they want to renew. They hit the update button. They just provide the new, just like names, the new files for the certificate. They put the password and they hit OK. And within 2 clicks, they could go ahead and update any certificate that they have over there. As we can see, the dashboard gives us like a really easy way to do that. Installing new certificates. There's 2 options for installing certificates. We could upload a brand new certificate. We have a certificate and the key, and we go ahead and we upload those. We select all the target instances. We don't have to do this on only one instance. We could apply this to all the instances all at once. Or we could go ahead, let's say that the certificate is already installed on one box. So we just like select the source box that we want to just pull the certificate from. As you could see over here, we have a drop down with all the certificates that are available for us over there. We pick, on this case, we're going to use our citrus.com wildcard certificate over there. And we just like are going to expand it to another place. Since this is a demo, I'm going to be putting over here like a bogus password. But you will just like put your regular password, make sure you save your config, and you will hit OK, and those certificates will be placed into the box that you want to deploy those certificates. Something that some people forget sometimes is I need to link my certificate. So let me go ahead and go with the GUI over here, click on the link button, and within 1 click away, my certificate is linked. So all full certificate management is available from the GUI. Let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about network functions, right? We were talking about, hey, I want to see real time if my application is up or not. So we go to the load balancing section over there. We just like use the search button because we are going to have several applications, and we are going to be searching for our demo app. Our demo app, we could see that our servers are down. Let me see why my servers are down, right? We go over here, and we could see on the bound service group, we could see in a second that all the members are down. Let me see the individual members, how they are. So I could see that I have the servers that I defined 333.444.555. And let's assume that all is healthy. It's a demo environment. If it will be healthy, we will just go ahead and we could, in some cases, we want to disable some servers or anything because like we're doing some maintenance, we could do everything from here. We could also see the status of the members and do any modifications. Something else that was critical for us was having analytics, right? How do I know my application is performing correct? How do I know that everything is correct? We could go over here to the statistics of like the virtual server, but sometimes we want to have statistics of my application itself. So we go to the analytics section, we go to the application as analytics, and on the application analytics, we're going to pick the most used application in the last hour. On this case, we are going to be picking for the demo mail.citrus.com. And for the mail, we could see over here bandwidth, we could see response time, we could see server latency, we could see all these parameters over there. And we could have like the top Docker clients. If we click on the server, we could see all the servers that are hosting this application, how many hits they are receiving, and we could see a lot of data over here that help us just troubleshoot when it's needed as well. So another couple of useful information over here, we can see total bandwidth, we could see the bandwidth by country that our application has been delivering to all of them, and we could drill down into more details as needed as well.
Fantastic demo, Dario. Thank you so very much. You can see with all that redacting that Dario had to do, this demo was definitely demoed with our internal live environment and not a demo environment. And I really like the styleBooks. I can see how providing a SDN-like service templates can really help accelerate people's workflows, right? No more waiting around for IT to process requests. SSL dashboard was absolutely killer as well. Especially when used correctly with SSL offloading. I'm not sure if people out there are aware, but the correct way to expose SSL resources is really by using an ADC to handle the most secure ciphers, whilst SSL internally would be managed by your internal PKI infrastructure. So now that we have this unified architecture, what has the net effect been at Citrix?
So I could tell you two stories that there were immediate wins when we deployed this new infrastructure. The first one is around ADC code upgrades. In the past, it used to be a manual process. We had to log into every single instance and perform the upgrade in one-by-one basics. Or we had a little bit of automation, but it was still a painful process. To perform an upgrade into a whole fleet of appliances, it used to take us several days per location, leading to weeks to get this done globally. Today, we are even able to schedule these ADC upgrades from ADM, where a single engineer could pre-stage all the change. They could schedule it to be done at midnight on the 27th, and they could go ahead, go home, set up their alerting. So as long as the upgrade goes through, they are going to just receive an email update saying all passed. Some more checks is required because it failed, and any failure, they will go ahead. They will just analyze on a one-to-one basis. They see what it failed. Sometimes they have just to go ahead and do a manual over there if we have some issues. But trust me, after this, we go ahead and right now today it takes us to upgrade all the infrastructure. It takes us days instead of weeks as it was done in the past. We could get this done globally within a matter of hours if it's needed. Another interesting story for us was around COVID-19. So as many of our customers, this pandemic got us in the middle of projects, migration, deployments, or even tasks to improve our environment. When COVID-19 was started, I received a phone call from my manager, hey, we need to attend to this meeting in 50 minutes in order to analyze our resource readiness in case we need to start working 100%. And I'm guessing that most of you should have received similar phone calls. Upon analyzing all the data, we determined that our VPN solution, which was scheduled to be migrated to the new infrastructure, but was not due for a couple of other months later on the year, could become a bottleneck for our remote workforce because we couldn't handle only around 60,000 users globally. So increased ADC resources was not possible in the old infrastructure, but since we already have our new infrastructure available and ready on some locations, we were able to migrate those AGIs within a week, expanding our capacity to 15,000 users globally with more room for growth as needed as we could go ahead now and expand all those resources on the SDXs. Under the new infrastructure, now it takes less than 15 minutes to increase ADC resources if needed.
Man, that is fantastic. Hey, Dario, as we are close to the end of our session, why don't you give us some key takeaways of Citrix journey?
So a couple of takeaways over there is, and this is more like advices to you guys, make sure your ADC design is scalable and secure on on-prem and cloud location. Try to use a modular design where it's possible, and try to use the same hardware platform. All this will help your operational team not to have to deal with multiple hardware, multiple RMAs, multiple processes that you have to put in place over there, and it will reduce your operational overhead when having to just do maintenance or renewals in the future. Work with your security team on making sure the solution is secure by design. Just don't wait until last minute to just do that security review. Do it from the beginning, and make sure that you engage in and you review that solution thoroughly. Make sure that your application owner requirements are taken early on the design process. This is critical for you to just be making a good design over there because it will dictate which features, hardware size, deployment model, among others to use on your design, which will impact the quality of the whole solution. Try to use ADM as centralized point of management for all your hardware. Having a central pane of glass is golden for all your infrastructure, since it will allow you to know major problems before they become more reactive. You could be more proactive than reactive in that case. Simplify repetitive tasks by creating automation and just use ADM configuration templates for standardize your configuration. And the most important for us was, guys, try to allow your application owners to manage their own application. Remove that burden from the operations team. Nobody knows the application better than the owner. Let them manage their own application for a centralized solution in order to reduce all that operational overhead. Give the owners the tool, application template through a style book, configuration jobs, whatever you decide, and let them be agile on their project will make the new solution grow faster and simpler. And try to use analytics, guys. Try to avoid the 3 a.m. call on performance issues for the ADC hosted application, which at the end of the day, they end up being like something with the backend server.
Hey, thanks, Dario. Really appreciate that. So now it's time for some questions and answers. So if you have any questions, please feel free to punch into the webinar. We already have a bunch of them coming in, so thank you so very much to everyone being very attentive and participating with our webinar. So we'll give it a few seconds, and I can already see one coming in. So Dario, does our solution support hardware and software options?
Yes. So as I mentioned, the whole design is like a place around like being scalable and be able just to perform correctly on both environments, whether you're on-prem and you're on software. We are implementing like the same design on our cloud offerings as well. So that's kind of a software option. But like definitely you could go ahead if you have a hypervisor-based solution. You could go ahead and you could deploy the same architecture over there. You just have to make sure that you just like plan your virtual network correctly to achieve the same concept.
Okay, makes sense. What about cloud providers? Are they supported?
Yes. So far we have tested this with Azure and AWS, and we are just in the process of just like doing a demo with GCP as well. The product spec test is supported. We haven't tested within GCP yet.
Hey, these are great questions, guys. What is the difference between hardware and software?
If you ask me, when you want just performance, I will always go with the hardware version, because like it will be able just to handle when it comes to SSL transactions, when it comes to performance, it has proven based on my experience, this is my experience only, to be more reliable. When we are going to, for example, cloud offerings, the story changed a little bit because like they have the proper sizing on the hardware over there than when we host like the VPX on our hypervisor-based environment. Especially Azure and AWS, they have like instances that they could just like grow tremendously, and we could achieve almost the same performance as the on-prem offerings that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw the same thing as well. And we finally have a question about ADM. Can ADM be hosted in the cloud, and how is it licensed?
Yes, so you could go ahead and host ADM on like Google Cloud, just like AWS or Azure. But my recommendation is like go with Citrix Cloud offering, guys. Like Citrix Cloud offering is no-brainer. When you go with the cloud version, you have to deploy a VM over there. You have to support a database. You have to support a lot of stuff. With Citrix Cloud offering, my experience has been the best. I only go ahead, I log in, and I use it. I don't have to worry about database getting corrupted or anything just like going funky over there. I just like go ahead and I use it.
Perfect. And looks like we got a couple more. Can someone without ADC experience manage an app in ADM?
Absolutely. ADM team has made a really, really good job on just like putting basic templates over there. So all our templates, the one that we are using is like a modified version of like the one that it comes out of the box. But you could definitely use the out-of-the-box templates that they have over there. If you have like some extensive requirements that we did have, to use like specific snaps, or if you want to modify them, they're all over there. They are free to use. Go ahead and just like modify them at your needs over there. But they are absolutely, you could go ahead, you could deploy ADM today, and by using the simplified templates that they have over there, you are going to be able to deploy your app in no time.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, we have probably, a couple more. I know we're a little bit over time right now, but you guys want to hang around here? Let's have a couple more questions. So how would we limit traffic to a certain geo? Ooh, that's a good one.
Okay, so we are exploring there now. We are, our plan is to use like a bot management. We are doing POCs as we speak. Bot management has a rate limiting feature that we're going to be implementing on all our applications, where the application owners are going to be able to apply their rate limiting by themselves based on URL, based on source IP, and stuff like that. We are working with the ADM product team on deploying that through ADM Stylebooks. The Stylebook is not there yet, but we have put our enhancement request, and they are just like prioritizing that accordingly, so it should be out anytime soon.
Oh, perfect, perfect. And we have two more trickle-ins, and I can answer these actually real quickly here, and then we can move on to the drawing. So first of all, do we have nonprofit pricing? Absolutely. This is something you can work with your account manager on. All accounts, right, have an associate account manager that works with you, so they can get you that information. Next question, with AppFlow enabled, what kind of traffic can be collected, and how would it be useful in analyzing the data for decision making? That's kind of what we saw in the demo, right, with the analytics, right? It shows you where the traffic flow is going, where the problems are, so that should a particular backend server or V server even have a problem, right, you can very quickly identify and triage where those problems are, and then therefore react to those problems. A very common problem is, for example, let's say you're load balancing two particular two particular servers on the back end, and one is performing slowly, right? Bad server response time. We can now identify that server instead of you trying to guess which particular server in your pool is having a problem. So thank you guys so much for these questions. And now moving on, it shows that everybody's engaged and participating. So thank you very much, Dario, for putting this together. Thank you to you guys again for these well thought out questions. We understand it takes a lot of effort to put forth a webinar like this, and we are very, very grateful for Dario and team. We have one more task at hand, and that is we're doing a giveaway to one lucky attendee. To win, you'll need to answer the following questions. So the first to answer in the chat, in the question rather, is the first to get this. What is the control plane of Citrix IT's global application delivery infrastructure? We'll give everybody a couple seconds to punch this in. I'm sure we'll get an answer soon. So punch it into the Q&A session. Just pretend you're asking a question. First person will get it. What is the control plane of Citrix IT's global application delivery infrastructure? There we go. We have the answer. Exactly, ADM. Congratulations, Ryan Steeple. Thank you so very much. We'll be reaching out to you shortly for your shipping information. Finally, here are some resources for you guys today. Lots of useful links for additional reading this evening. Again, the deck and these resources will be made available to you offline, optionally. For those of you that did not notice, these resources are available on the handout section of this webinar, so you can actually download these right now. Last note, please don't forget that there will be a survey going out to you after the webinar has ended, so be sure to fill that out. We value your feedback. And we wanted to thank everyone for attending, especially our presenter, Dario. Everyone, please have a great rest of your day. Thank you so very much.